Can you imagine buying a property for $2,000, $3,000, $5,000 that's worth 50, 60, 100,000, 150,000? What we're talking about on today's podcast is tax liens and tax deeds. Now, much different than wholesaling, but there is a wholesaling component to this strategy, and I've got an incredible guest on today. His name is Saen Higgins, and he's going to break down exactly what you need to do to be able to bid at those tax liens and tax deed auctions. Saen, how does somebody make $100,000, $250,000, $500,000 with tax liens and tax deeds? How do they do that? I thought you only got, it starts at 18 to 16% and gets bid down to like nothing at the auctions. How do you turn that into $100,000, $250,000, $500,000?
Well, there's a couple of different phases. First of all, you've got tax lien certificates on properties, and you've got tax deeds. So there's a big difference between the two. Tax liens are the interest rate, okay? And not all the tax liens sell at sale. So you can go into excess inventory and get those at the full interest rate. And not all of them are bid down. Now, you're in Arizona. One of the first places I ever went. That place is so oversaturated. It's, people go, oh, it's easy. And the easier the market is, the less excited I am about it.
Sure.
There's 5,013, I think it is, taxing jurisdictions countrywide. Not 5,013 tax counties. Jurisdictions. So everybody has a little different advent on how they do it, which is really cool. So, what I teach is, okay, we've got to get some tax lien things under your belt because that's kind of bread and butter, if you will. It's the tax deeds that put you over the edge.
So real quick, Saen, just to slow it down just a little bit, the tax liens you said is where you get the interest? Because I remember, listen, in college in 2003, I got Rich Dad Poor Dad, and then I went to this used book place because I didn't have any money, and I kept seeing this book that had the big 16% on it,
Solution.
right?
Yeah.
And I cracked that thing open, and it's like not only can you get 16% on your money guaranteed, but the real treasure in my mind, was you could get the house. You could foreclose on the house and get the house for what you bought it for the tax lien. And I was like, oh my gosh, that's like you're buying houses for like a couple $100, a couple $1,000. This is it. This is the best, right?
Yeah, so let me explain that. When I buy a tax lien certificate on a property, I'm basically the county. So the county has already placed a lien on the property. They have to have been delinquent 1 year. The county goes, we need the money. Roads, bridges, fire department, most importantly, school districts, right? We need that money. So I buy it to the county. I'm not doing anything with the property. It has nothing to do with me, really. They give me the certificate. When the person comes into the county, they pay the county the money they owe in property taxes. The county sees that I'm the lien holder of record, and they issued me back my $1,000 or whatever it is, plus the interest rate. There's the guarantee. It's state statute. Doesn't matter what happens in the stock market, bond market, foreign market, or who gets elected president. I get 18%, 16%, 25% mandated by law. Boom. The underlying security of that investment is the value of the property.
Sure.
Here's where a lot of people get confused on that. I am not like an outside person. I am the county. So if they fail to pay the property taxes off within a prescribed amount of time, and we'll call it 1 year or 2 years, during that time, if they don't, I can initiate foreclosure. I can foreclose on that property, thus eliminating all liens and encumbrances, including a mortgage.
Right.
I would own that property free and clear. Now listen, the mortgage company would know that I'm foreclosing, and they have an opportunity to pay the taxes off, but boo-hoo, I'm getting 16 to 18%. But make no mistake about it for your group. There's no ambiguity here. If they do not redeem, there is no, but if they're the bank, but if they're the IRS, but if they're Aunt Sally, I will own that property free and clear of all liens and encumbrances for the back taxes. Okay, but I'm buying tax lien certificates for the redemption. I want the interest rate. The underlying upside is I'll get the property. The second half of that is about half the states will not sell the tax liens until 4 years, and it becomes a tax deed. Then I just go to the county. I want that property sold to the highest bidder, and I'm getting it. So here's where I can say somebody says, I want to make $500,000. And I go, okay, well, how many properties do we need to get? Let's just use an arbitrary number of, I'm going to make $50,000 a deal. Well, that's 10 properties. Okay. How many lists do you need to...
Is that real, Sean? 50K a deal?
Yeah, that's very real. So if I need to do 10 deals, okay, then how many lists do I need to look at? If I need 10 deals, then how many auctions do I need to go? So you're kind of working in reverse, like a PERT chart, if you will.
Yeah.
And I'm looking at that going, okay, so now I'm just going, that's why I say I don't teach people how to do a deal. That's a waste of time.
Right.
So, let's keep showing you how to do this, because I could make $15,000 on my very first deal maybe. And the next one I make 120. And, let me think of a deal. I've got one right now that I'm almost done with. I paid $30,000 for the house. It was in disrepair. It had been vacant for about 5 years. Person was deceased in a family deal. So I paid $30,000 for it. I ended up with the property. I put $78,000 in rehab in it, and it's worth $260,000. So what do? Do I rent it out? Do I sell it? Or even a better way to do it is, talking to wholesalers. I could get it for $30,000, and then Brent comes along and says, hey, I'll give you $60,000 for it. So I've got some options on it. One of the things I do train people to do is don't sit there and say, I'm going to do a fix and flip. Let the property tell you.
Yes.
So if I'm in this property for, say, $120,000, más o menos, and the market's worth $260,000, I'm renting it for $2,500 a month, it might be telling me to rent. I could pull my initial cash out of the property and determine a loan. There is zero tax on that, and I can continue to do other deals and still own the property. And
so what'd you do?
I'm not sure. I think I'm going to sell the property. My decision on that particular one is, and I'm pushing the brakes on it because I think I want to get more I don't want one property. If I want a rental property, I want 10.
Yes.
And I think
multifamily.
If I think I can get more in that particular area, and then therefore now I've got, I'm in a legacy mode right now. I've sold a lot of my properties. I'm building them back up again, and I could see 50 to 60 properties here in the next easy 3 to 4 years.
Yep.
And then just let those crews in there. I've got a 26-year-old and a 10-year-old, so I've got two sides of the same spectrum there, that both of them.
So if you flip that property, Sean, what will you make? $100,000?
Oh, easily. I'll make, on that one there. Yeah, a little over 100,000.
I'm gonna ring this victory bell for you, Sean. Even though you haven't sold it yet, I know you will. Here we go. Come on.
Yeah, and so imagine. So okay, let's just take that deal. So I got another deal. Okay, and I paid $97,000 for this property, which is probably, in my world, probably 80 too much. But again, we're going to put about $100,000 into that property, and it's a $300,000 property.
So what, Sean, are you doing like 10 deals a year and just living your life
and again,
the rest of the year? What are we doing?
I think people would be surprised at how few deals I have to do.
Right.
I have an education company which teaches people how to do this.
Yep.
I have a retirement company. I help people set up private retirement accounts. As I mentioned before, I've got Airbnbs. I've got a luxury safari company in Africa, and I've had a lot of properties and I've done a lot of deals. My biggest year is well over 16 million, and that was a lot of work. That was a lot of work, and I would never do that again.
16 million in gross revenue?
Gross revenue, bottom line revenue is probably 5.
Oh my gosh.
And again, there's a lot of what I call oil to make that machine run.
Sure.
And it's funny because I see all these. And no offense to Grant Cardone, I have all the respect in the world, but you're never going to see me. If you see me in a video getting on a jet, it's somebody else's.
Yeah, sure.
You know what I mean? I love traveling. I just got back from a 5-week trip around the world with my daughter. I don't need a lot. So yeah, you're absolutely right. If I do, I'm bumping it up a little bit, but if I do 12 to 15 deals a year, I'm happy as a pig in mud. Awesome. Seriously.
Yeah, sure.
Everybody makes money. My retirement account is going straight up because I also teach people how to do these in their retirement account. without any ramifications, and I show them how to leverage in their retirement account. It's just there's just so many dominoes that start to open up when you crack the onion, so to speak.
So I always feel like it's like this. I feel like these auctions and buying tax liens and buying tax deeds is still very mysterious. You know what I mean? Like all the other things I feel like in real estate, whether it's fixing and flipping or wholesaling or novations or creative finance and all those things, you could, once you pull the thread on it, you could really get down to it. But I still feel like there's just mystery to it. Like, where do you bid at? How do you not get outbid by all the bigger companies that buy these? You know, how do you make sure that you don't make a mistake the first time and buy a property that the taxes are worth more than it's worth? Like, there's so much, you know, mixed up in there. So when you're taking somebody in their just, and we don't have to go through your full process because that would take far too long. But like the what's the first step? I mean, obviously the first step is
you know, deciding what you want to do.
Right.
I mean, how much money do you want to make?
But I mean,
you know,
technically, how do you pick an auction? How do you find a list? How do you know what I mean?
Yeah, you know, and again, this is just stuff I learned over the years. You got to understand the difference between a tax lien and a tax deed. You got to understand that they're really two different sides of the same coin. You got to understand that the nuance, the fundamentals of a tax lien and tax deed is the secret of everything. Once you understand why the county has them, where they're available and all that, then you start building your plan into, okay, you know, and I have a 663 method, 6 lien states, 6 deed states, 3 counties in each one of those. You got 36 counties, so you're just inundating yourself with all this data coming in. And then you're starting to weed through, okay, which ones do I want? Which ones do I want to stay away from? And then, you know, our whole method is all about that. Believe it or not, I spend more time on what is it that you're trying to do.
Right.
You know, how much money do you want to make? You got to start with that instead of just, I need to get a property. And once you do that and then determine, you know, start going through the whole process of finding the 663, getting that data coming in, and then finding the uniqueness within the county. This is, you mentioned, you know, these corporate buyers. It doesn't happen. Every once in a while you'll have some, but here's what the beauty of tax liens and deeds is what you said. It's the mystery involved. And every county does it differently.
Right.
So everybody got a civics lesson with COVID. You know, I live in California, and people are like, oh my God, you guys are locked down. I'm like, well, no, I live in Placer County, and Placer County's interpreting the COVID rules different than Orange County, Riverside County, Sacramento County. And it was funny because immediately I'm like, well, yeah, this is how they do tax liens and deeds. The counties could give a rat's ass how the county next to them does it. They don't care. This is how we interpret our rules. And like if I can call a county, let's say Santa Rosa County down in the Panhandle in Florida, I'll call them up and they say, we don't allow you to buy them through the mail. Well, I know that they do. But if they say they don't, they don't. So something happened that made them restrict that.
Sure.
So part of my method, part of my teaching is get to know somebody. You got to treat these people with respect. So get somebody on the inside. Once you start cracking those 36 counties down and have a friend, and then they, you know, pretty soon they're going, hey, Sean, what's going on? I mean, this specific county, they told me that. By the end of the phone call, they're like, well, it sounds like you know what you're doing. And I said, yeah, why do you guys prevent some people from doing it through me? Let me tell you. And they had a whole story behind it. I'm like, oh. They're like, let me tell you something. If you want some, let us know. But let me tell you why. You know, and I get it. Excuse me. So I don't know if that sheds some light on it, but part of the beauty of tax liens and deeds is the fact that every county does it differently. So part of my teaching is find out what's unique. And the more difficult the county makes, the more I'm getting excited. Because it's not personal. They're not going, oh, this freaking asshole Sean's going to call today. Let's make it. No. They got a bunch of people calling them. And they get irritated with it. So if all I do is just spend a little more time building rapport, finding out what the key is, you know, here it is 30 years later, and I'm still finding out things about counties that I was like, oh, I didn't know that. Oh, okay. So we can do this and we can do that. And oh, interesting, you know. And then it opens up a whole new gamut where all of a sudden you get addicted to a market for a while. And then somebody else shares something else, and you're like squirrel, and you find another market, and go about. Is that helpful?
Yeah, well, I mean, it goes back to the, I think you mentioned it earlier, Tipping Point, the 10,000 hours, Malcolm Gladwell's book, where he talks about Bill Gates in there. It's just the more conversations you have and the more offers you make at those auctions, the more you're going to learn. Right.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing with us. I mean, we talk about conversations and offers. That's the seed of any good real estate entrepreneur, is just getting comfortable, getting on the phone and calling up. My question is, what do you Google, Sean? What do you Google if you're interested in buying a tax lien or a tax deed? Do you just Google property taxes in a county? Like, what would you search to get a phone number to call somebody?
Yeah, that's a great question. The problem is the internet has made things so elusive because, there is information out there, but, it's not like the county. I'm going to go back to you. They've already done their job. So having a tax lien department that's efficient, is like expecting somebody to knock on the door and say, I'm with the government, I'm here to help. It's delusional. So the best way to start is you've got to look at the county. If you're not using any resources, you haven't gone through our education, is you've got to be able to call a county and find out. You got to start somewhere. Where are you a lien or a deed state? That's the first thing. When are your sales happening? When do you post the list? They're usually 30 days prior to sale. There's some laws that are kind of static throughout the whole country. Sorry. I had a cold last week that I'm getting over with. But, and then you find out when, what the interest rate is, what their redemption period is, when their sale is coming up, get on that list. And, again, just listening to myself talk about it is the reason there's more people that go, I don't think I'm going to do that, which is okay with me. But again, it goes back, and it's not like, I have a scarcity mentality. I could teach people how to do this over and over again every day. And, you're still going to have people that just go, no, I don't think this is for me. And like you with your wholesale industry, if you're not willing to say, oh, here's the fundamentals that I have to execute and the skill set I need to perfect, if you don't have that mentality, it's not going to go on from there. But you've got to find out whether it's a lien or deed, find the county contact in there, figure out their interest rate and redemption period. Do they allow assignment purchasing? Do you have to be there live and in person? How does the auction process take? When do they need the money in? Is it online? Is it live? Some of those things on there.
Well, I mean, the internet's been around a while now. Isn't there like one database that you could just go to and see, okay, based on a calendar, here's all the auctions going on here. Here's all the properties in that auction. Here's where the opening bid is. Any other information that's on there, maybe how many years behind or if there's already a lien on that property from a previous year. There's nothing. Is there anything like that?
No, we used to have some tools like that. They were so inefficient because here's the bottleneck. The bottleneck is the county.
Right.
So unfortunately, they don't care whether we get data or not. And so they're like.
Well, I think that's exciting, Sean. Like you were saying, like you get to be a detective. You get to go into these areas and
there's the problem, and there's the benefit. Yeah. So, one of the things I tell people all the time, you can't systematize this.
Right.
So these, BlackRock and all these people that are these big scary things, they can't go in there and go, let's just scrape data and get this. And there's some AI guys out there that are trying to do this, and I laugh because I've spent so much money trying to get to that.
Yeah.
And they're, again, okay, now you've got all this data. What does that county do? How do they let you show up? Who has to buy? Do you have to be bonded? All of these things, that changes everywhere you go. And so call me old school, but I love technology, man. I love it. I lean into it in so many ways. But I just don't see it cracking the code on that yet. And I've seen so many people come to me and go, I've got it. I go, yeah. And then I go, no, you don't. Because of what I said. You've got a county, 5,013 jurisdictions out there who don't care whether you get the data or not. Like there's, for instance, there was, where were we? Nashville. And so, here's the sale coming up. Do you have the list out? Do you have the list out? Do you have the list out? Well, they're supposed to technically have it out 30 days before. 12 days before the auction, they finally get it out. So how am I supposed to systematize that? You know what I mean?
Yep.
And so, and like you said, and you picked it up, good on you. That's the bonus.
Yeah.
As long as you're willing
It's
to
finding
do
buried treasure. I mean,
you're good to go.
this is literally exactly what I thought it was as a young, mushy-brained, like 21-year-old. It's finding treasure. I mean, if you can go and you can have the conversations and get the lists and get the information and make sure that you have somebody that's guiding you and teaching you on how to bid and the process of it and what's a good deal and what's a bad deal, I think that that's hugely important. I really do. I don't think that you just go into this thing raw and just try to figure it out on the fly with your own funds. Like go and find something like the dozen people that were following you back in the day. But once if you do get one, and you do, and you are able to get that property, and it's not some big dramatic whole episode with a family and the whole thing, and what's going on, and you get a property for $30,000 that's worth $260,000 if you put $80K into it. I mean, that's literally nothing is better than finding buried treasure. That's what that is.
Yeah, it is. You know, so let me speak to that. I mean, well, Sean, you did it. Yeah, but I didn't have a family. I didn't have a financial freaking bear climbing down my back. So I had some time in the beginning, and most people don't.
Right.
You know, and so what prevents people from doing this more, and I truly believe this, is they go out there and try to do it on their own, and they see, and maybe they get a hold of a couple knuckleheads, and they go down this road, and it's just like, dude, you don't have time for that, and it just doesn't make any sense. And you know, so maybe that's still why there's so much mystery in it. Because I told you before, I thought I was going to stop teaching this, and I realized, oh, wait a second. You know, I don't care what market you talk about. I can tell you where, what, and how. I may not have invested in that particular market, but I know that, hey, listen, I've heard some really good things. Watch out for these things.
Yep.
You know, type of
I love
thing.
it.
At least to get them started.
Sean, how can people find out more about you? More about
if you guys want more information on it, it's real simple. You can go to higginsmethod.com, and I'm sure Brent will post that somewhere on there. Talk to Jason or one of my guys on there if you want want to go to one of my classes. I probably do, I don't know, at least 120 classes a year nationwide somewhere. The best class to go to is the one near you or the one in Hawaii. That's always good.
Which island?
Yeah, we're usually on all of them. You know, except for Kauai. We don't do Kauai. But we're booking that for later on this year. It's always funny. Great people over there. I've taught people how to do tax lien certificates worldwide.
Yep.
You can't do them anywhere else except for the United States, because the good old U.S. The United States is the only one that has laws that are set up the way that we talked about earlier. I won't beat a dead horse with that. It doesn't work anywhere else. So we've taught people from Australia, Europe. The most bizarre place I ever taught people was floating down the boat on the Nile. And I was at a conference, and I was a guest speaker there for something completely different. They found out, they're like, wait a second, you're the tax lien guy. And so I found myself at night doing a thing on the top of the boat as we're floating down the Nile. And, that was bizarre. So, again, I've been doing this a long time, and, whether you use us or not, this is a really great way to provide financial independence for you and your family.
Awesome. Yeah, and just looking at the stats that you were talking about 99.5% of property owners pay their property taxes, and that 0.5% is still a unbelievable amount of properties, though. I mean, there's 143 million just residential properties. We're talking commercial, we're talking land, we're talking agriculture, we're talking industrial. I mean, all of them are getting property. People don't understand, you own your property, but the state owns the land under your property, okay?
Well, it's really the county. I mean, if you really break it down, the county controls title on the property. And if you just look at that concept right there, Brent, they don't care about the IRS. They don't care about the bank. Look, unless we get our property taxes paid, y'all do whatever you want. We will not issue clear title until the property taxes are paid to the county. Period.
Yeah, I would buy properties at the foreclosure auctions, like bank foreclosure auctions. You still had to pay off the property taxes after you bought the property. I mean, that came with it. That was part of the decision making on what to offer on properties was what are the past due taxes. You have to pay those. Those go right away, right when you buy them. Yep. Incredible. Absolutely incredible. And I think it's important to understand, property taxes, guys, they pay sanitation, they pay spaces, they pay services, they pay streets, they pay security, and they pay...
Cool. And probably 55 to 65% of all property tax go to educate the kids out there. And
that's it.
It's such a pure form of the government. They can't print money. If they don't have the budget, they can't spend it. If you don't like what the county's doing with the investment, I got a challenge. If anybody finds a safer or more lucrative investment opportunity than this, let me know.
Yeah.
I'll stop what I'm doing and do that. Come on. I've dabbled in everything. There's nothing like this.
Yep.
It works.
HigginsMethod.com, guys. Saen Higgins here. He's been doing it since 1994. They've got events all the time. You're going to find one in and around you. So if you are interested, if this hit that part of your brain that you're like, you know what, that sounds exciting. That sounds like something that I could take some action on. Make sure that you go to HigginsMethod.com and check out their calendar of events. Saen, thanks for spending some time with the Wholesaling Inc. audience.
Absolutely. Brent, thanks for having me on board. This has been a pleasure. Good luck.
Awesome. See ya. That's it, guys. That wraps up the podcast for today. If you are interested in joining the Rhino Tribe, go to wholesalinginc.com. Check out what it's all about. We'll put together a custom blueprint for you there. Wholesalinginc.com. And that is it. I am Brent Daniels, Mr. TTP, Mr. Talk to People, encouraging you to go out there and talk to people. Love you guys. See you next time.